Today we're here talking about one of the biggest novels in science fiction, possibly like the first science fiction novel, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So, Mary Shelley is considered the mother of Gothic literature. And I explained this in a different review. Gothic literature is considered at once romantic and eerie, with a fanciful air, but also with almost like a sinister, dark kind of feeling to it, which definitely fits in with the Frankenstein motif. So Mary Shelley, back in the Victorian era, she predicted man's abuse of technology. She predicted it ultimately destroying its creator. And, okay, so Mary Shelley wrote this during the Industrial Revolution, which, think toned down steampunk. Like, this is when our culture was shifting towards cars and telephones and lamps instead of horses and letters and fire. Anyway, all these advances were coming along, and at this point Mary Shelley was out on a vacation with some friends, and when the weather was bad, they all decided to try to write their most frightening horror story, and this is what she came up with. Not bad. Not bad. In a nutshell, the story of Frankenstein is about a guy who got carried away one night and became a father unexpectedly. Our main character, Dr. Frankenstein, he's telling his story, so all of this is written in first person through his eyes. One night when he was a student, an extremely enthusiastic, talented, brilliant student, genius, he got it into his head that he was going to create life. He had been studying all these scientific mysteries, and then he decided, well, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to do this. So secretly, he put all this together. He had to do it secretly because, of course, it involved grave robbing. Anyway. And one night, he's successful. He does it. He brings a man to life that's made out of a bunch of other men, and immediately he's like, oh, so, it's not quite the reaction that you see in the movies. He freaks out. The second that this thing he's made is animated, he's like, oh, no, this was a mistake. I screwed up. Anyway, and he just books it. He runs. And this whole affair has had such an impact on his health. He goes through so much stress and anxiety over this that he's just slowly dying, and his family is all worried about him. But the book is very different than a lot of interpretations you see. What actually happens is the monster he creates, which is never once referred to as Frankenstein, this monster that he's created, it goes out, and gradually it comes to a sense of itself, because after Frankenstein runs off, the creature is left to its own devices. It kind of has to make its own way. It learns to speak the language, and it becomes educated by chance, and it actually becomes very articulate and of higher thoughts, and able to dream and plan and desire greater for itself. Basically, this creature just torments Dr. Frankenstein because he's mad. This creature is super effing ugly, and so he's pretty mad that Dr. Frankenstein made him that way, and so he's like, you better make me a wife. And so Dr. Frankenstein is like, okay, I will. Just leave me alone. Just let me live my life. At the last minute, though, he realizes, wait a minute. If I give it a wife, it's going to breed. There's going to be more of them. And so then he goes back and he's like, nope, not doing it. Now, this really makes the creature mad. And he kills Dr. Frankenstein's whole family one by one. Yeah, nice, huh? So, the big themes of this book is abuse of technology and mankind essentially destroying itself with its own ambition. And it's great. And I tell you, I'm reading through this. It takes place in like Geneva in Europe. So it's going back and forth and just describing all these like beautiful settings. Like, it's seriously landscape porn. Okay, that was a little bit off topic. I'll tell you more about it on Tumblr in my written review. But it really is a great book, and if you ever wanted to give a classic book, actually like give it a try reading it and not just read Cliff Notes or watch my reviews, this would be the one to do it because it's fascinating. It's pretty interesting. That's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Remember, everybody, don't get carried away and become accidental parents. In a nutshell, the story of Frankenstein. In a nutshell, the story of Frankenstein. Frankenstein? You know, never once does Dr. Frankenstein utter the phrase, "It's alive!" You know that classic phrase that they put in all Frankenstein incarnations? He never says it. Not even once.